about our status on Facebook.
It's there.
All right, that's fantastic news. And so we will get started here. Dandat pranams to you, dear devotees. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much for joining us here on Zoom as well as on joining us on the Facebook. And we are going to get started with our reading of Bhagavad-gita 4.12 after these short prayers to the special masters. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padkamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Kanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaskute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Gaur Premanande Hare Hare Bol. Welcome once again, dear devotees. Thank you for joining our call, and I can see that many more have joined us since we started. So my pranams to Meera Mataji and Astha and Varshana Mataji and Sadhana Mataji also joining us here. Okay, this is all good news. So should we get started? So which verse of Bhagavad Gita are we supposed to do today? That's the question.
4.12.
4.12. And what did we talk about in the previous verse? It was a very interesting chapter last time, right? Was it interesting?
Yes.
And so what was interesting about it? Let's see. It said, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tan sateva bhajamyaham mama vatmanu vartante manusyaha partha sarvashaha, right? And it was the tit for tat, right? So we talked a lot about the tit for tat that comes across in our scriptures. And we had talked about that there are different paths that people can take. And it's not that all the paths are going to lead to Krishna. There are different paths made by Krishna. All the paths on which people walk on their own free will are paths that are made by Krishna, not necessarily that all paths will lead to Krishna. And we had also said that even on a path that is leading to Krishna, we can choose to walk in the opposite direction or take detours and spend some time somewhere else and then come back to the mercy of some pure devotee of the Lord, like that. Okay, so this is what we were talking about, that as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. So this means all, there's a all here, right? So depending on the degree of the surrender, whether the surrender is 100% or the surrender is 0.1%, Accordingly, Krishna will reward. So whatever, is coming comes from Krishna. And we talked about that, right? Eko bahuna yo vidadhati kama nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kama. And there is one, and he satisfies the desires and the demands and the requests and the prayers of many, right? So that's the power of Krishna. But then we remember that everything is coming from Krishna. I reward them accordingly. So let's go to today's verse here, and which is 4.12. And in 4.12, Krishna is saying, Kangshantaha karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devataha shipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. Kangshantaha karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devataha shipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. Kangshantaha karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devataha shipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmaja. And let's see what the synonyms are for this verse. Kangshantaha means to desire. Karmanam, of fruitive activities. Siddhim, perfection. Jajante, they worship by sacrifices. Iha, in this material world. Devataha, the demigods. Shipram, very quickly. He, certainly. Manushe, in human society. Loke, within this world. Siddhihi, success. Bhavati, comes. Karmaja, from fruitive work. Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Men in this material world desire success in fruitive activities, and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, men get results from fruitive work in this world. Purport by Srila Prabhupada again. There is a great misconception about the gods or demigods of this material world. And men of less intelligence, although passing as great scholars, take these demigods to be various forms of the Supreme Lord. Actually, the demigods are not different forms of God, but they are God's different parts and parcels. God is one, and the parts and parcels are many. The Vedas say Nitya Nityanam. God is one. Ishvara Parama Krishna, the Supreme God is one. Krishna and the demigods are delegated with powers to manage this material world. These demigods are all living entities, Nityanam, with different grades of material power. They cannot be equal to the Supreme God, Narayan, Vishnu, or Krishna. Anyone who thinks that God and the demigods are on the same level is called an atheist or Pashandi. Even the great demigods like Brahma and Shiva cannot be compared to the Supreme Lord. In fact, the Lord is worshipped by demigods such as Brahma and Shiva, Shiva Virinchinutam. Yet, curiously enough, there are many human leaders who are worshipped by foolish men under the misunderstanding of anthropomorphism or zoomorphism. Iha Devata denotes a powerful man or demigod of this material world. But Narayan, Vishnu, or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, does not belong to this world. He is above or transcendental to the material creation. Even Sripad Shankaracharya, the leader of the impersonalists, maintains that Narayan or Krishna is beyond this material creation. However, foolish people, Hrityajna, worship the demigods because they want immediate results. They get the results but do not know that the results so obtained are temporary and are meant for less intelligent persons. The intelligent person is in Krishna consciousness, and he has no need to worship the paltry demigod for some immediate temporary benefit. The demigods of this material world, as well as their worshippers, will vanish with the annihilation of this material world. The boons of the demigods are material and temporary. Both the material worlds and their inhabitants, including the demigods and their worshippers, are bubbles in the cosmic ocean. In this world, however, human society is mad after temporary things such as material opulence of possessing land, family, and enjoyable paraphernalia. To achieve such temporary things, people worship the demigods or powerful men in human society. If a man gets some ministership in the government by worshiping a political leader, he considers that he has achieved a great boon. All of them are therefore now owing to the so-called leaders or big guns in order to achieve temporary boons. And they indeed achieve such things. Such foolish men are not interested in Krishna consciousness for the permanent solution to the hardships of material existence. They are all after sense enjoyment, and to get a little facility for sense enjoyment, they are attracted to worshipping empowered living entities known as demigods. This verse indicates that people are rarely interested in Krishna consciousness. They are mostly interested in material enjoyment, and therefore they worship some powerful living entity. Hari Om. That's it. Okay. So, thoughts about this verse? What do you say?
So the term that
Mostly people.
Sorry, go ahead, Mataji.
No, Mataji. Please carry on.
Arima, go ahead.
I was saying that the atheist term is so strong, and it is used for the people who worship demigods. So yeah, it's like it. I sometimes feel it's lack of knowledge, because we all are here for material pleasures, and we just keep on hearing that and then realizing also that anything whatever we desire materially, it gives pain only to us. So we are looking for Krishna's pleasure and want to worship Krishna so that we can get ultimate happiness, but we want to be happy. So yeah, so I was just thinking about that demigod worship is like you consider it as atheist only. So and all those in India, so many pujas and so many things are there for Parvati ji, Devi ji and all. So people do it and then they are still atheist.
Yeah. Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Barshana Mataji, you were also trying to say something?
Madhuri, I had the same idea. The only thing is I felt that actually they are not atheists, that as Lord himself said, that I give them the encouragement when they're, I give them the power to keep on worshipping the demigod whom they want to, because finally they come back to me.
Yeah, but then they are, but they don't believe in Krishna.
Yeah, they do not believe in Krishna because they want very quick results. And Krishna is one who gives the result only.
No, I'm talking
they...
about the atheist. No, I'm talking about the term atheist, right? I'm talking about the term atheist, right? So we have to understand theist and atheist, right? One who believes in Krishna is a theist. Let's see what. Yeah. That's our distinction. And in here in the purport also, Prabhupada said that people will worship anybody, which means that you can worship a political leader also, because you get some gains, right? So people are after gains. People are after games, and he said anthropomorphism or zoomorphism. So anthropomorphism is when you assign godlike qualities to a human being, right? So they become God. Have you heard any Sachin Tendulkar prayers going on in India? That's what it is, right? So definitely, right. And like I was saying yesterday, that a real devotee. So what happens is that people, when they see, why do they worship Sachin Tendulkar? Because he's such a fine batsman or a bowler or a cricket captain, and they admire those qualities. But from where are those qualities coming?
From Krishna.
Right? If Krishna was to throw a ball at Sachin, a googly, he won't be able to handle it. We can't handle Krishna's googlies. Right? So what we are misled. We are misled. And then and in the previous verse, it was like, okay, so if you enjoy, and as you Mataji said, that he strengthens that faith. If you want to worship Sachin Tendulkar, okay, fine, I'll enable you to do that. Because this material world is meant to fulfill our material desires. So that's your desire. You want to worship him. Go ahead. I'll make that possible. But then to also remember that thing comes from Krishna, and then the enjoyment that you get from worshipping Krishna, worshipping Sachin or Amitabh or anybody like that, non-God, right? the result will also be proportional. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sathaiva prajamiham. So those who are worshipping these Sachin Tendulkars of the world, they are admiring something which is coming from Krishna, right? But they are not, clearly placed. Their faith is not clearly placed. So according to their surrender, they are surrendering to something little which is coming from Krishna. So then your enjoyment will also be little, and then it'll go away. Because after some time, Sachin Tendulkar will stop bowling,
Yeah.
and he'll stop making sixers and things like that. He'll become old. Amitabh Bachchan will become old or die. And then when the film actors die, people forget about them, right? How many of you remember Madhubala? Like that. So, but
It's
then
all temporary. Everything
all
is temporary.
right, it was written there, yeah, temporary. And I see Sadhana Mataji with her hand raised. And Garima, is that an old hand or a new hand?
New hand, Mataji.
All righty. Okay, good. So, yeah, Sadhana Mataji, go ahead.
Yes, Hare
Sadhana.
Krishna. Yeah, Hare Krishna. So, two things. Like, so I've never lived in India, and I don't really know anybody who is worshipping, like in quotes, any film star or. I know. I guess it must be happening there. But I've never seen it myself.
There are temples dedicated not only to superstars, but I would even say B-grade stars.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are intelligent people, or people who haven't had the opportunity for any education in their lives? Is this like, could this be anybody who's gone to school?
I would say that there is a lot of education in India. People are in generally educated, like they go to schools, right? And those who are not educated will be in, the slums or in the villages or things like that. Like even these days there is education there, but these are people in the right. They are in the right senses. I mean, the sense that from the worldly sense of it, they are in the right senses. It's just that there is so much of adoration for their idol. And they are so much into cricket, and Sachin is everything for them. Everything for them. And then people invent goddesses. I mean, I remember when I was 13 or 14, there was this famous movie that ran, I think, in the theaters for 2 years. Vaishana Mataji, you might be able to correct me. That was Jai Santoshi Ma. Do you remember that? Yeah. It ran for, so this was Santoshi Ma. You know what? Our scriptures don't even talk about that anymore. Santoshi Ma. And this was so funny and it has its origins actually in cricket. And somebody was telling me that there was a match between, I guess, must be Pakistan and India. And it was some series, and this was the last chance to play. And then all of them sat down and did some yagya. And so they just said, okay, somebody just came up and concocted this term, Santoshi Ma ka yagya, when everybody did the yagya, and the team won, the India team won. And after that, Santoshi Ma, she grants all your wishes. And then the whole public ran out of by Kangshanta Karmanam Siddhim. Today's verse is saying that, first the desire was that India should win. And then now that the person who's making you win, Shipram, right? Said Shipram, quickly. They're going to give it to you quickly, right? So now they gave us quickly the thing quickly. Varshana, your turn is number 3. In the hands. You can raise your hand so that I'll know. So it comes very quickly. And so now they gave it quickly for others. So then it is like, okay, she gave it to Sachin, whoever was the captain at that time of the Indian cricket team. So it's not, but I have a whole big list of things, right? Right, let's go and go to them. So this is how it is. So yeah, Sadhana Mataji, it is true. And temples of Amitabh Bachchan are still there in India, even today.
And then the other part of the question is, like, one of the statistics that you read is that about 60% of Hindus are Vaishnavas.
No, not 60%.
Is that a false statistic?
No, not 60%. But the fact that they exist, the temples like that exist, and people. So it's also the cultural momentum that, if they find somebody very good, they will start worshipping. It comes to us as second nature. And then you offer them some flowers, and then it becomes, I offer it every day. Then somebody will produce a arti for that person, and you start singing the arti. And then somebody will say, you know what, Sachin was God, or whoever.
So is this this must exist only in India then? So the Indians die for us around the world. I mean,
Elvis Presley,
you don't see that.
Elvis Presley, I've heard Graceland, people worship him. I've heard that. I don't know. I haven't been to Graceland, nor do I want to be. So this kind of idol worship is there in every world, but I think we are coming from a country where there are rituals and a lot of things. So yeah, temples are like that. But I've heard that about Elvis Presley also. People do adore them. And I know this one that there was this famous singers, right? The rock stars. This happened in America. Rock stars, and they sing, and of course they are drunk and they are heavy on drugs to be able to sing like that and gyrate the whole night. And then at the end of it, they are full of sweat, and they take off the t-shirt and they throw it in the audience, and the audience is mad, mad to get, and they'll be pulling matches, and it'll get pulled in all directions, and you get a tiny little piece, and then it sells on the market. Is auctioned for thousands of dollars. So people do that kind of worship for everybody. For those who think that they are good, they might not erect a temple, but the worship is still there. At least it's in the heart. And
so in the Gita, there is a delineation between the idea of just basic idol worship, demigods, and then God as Krishna. And are we now saying that there's no delineation then, that everything that's not worshipable by Krishna is all, it's not like a ladder, that it's just all either you're Krishna or there's no other way? Because it sounds like that, and I don't know if I'm feeling a bit confused about it.
Other than Krishna, there is no way that is true.
Well, I understand
right?
that, but yeah,
right.
Now there are so many people who are not going to be there right now.
No,
right?
yes,
they're
yes.
also trying to get there.
They're trying to get
a ladder,
there.
Correct? Right? There's a ladder of.
Yes, there's a yoga ladder, but we have to remember that unless you get to the last rung, you are not reaching the destination.
Well, yes.
Right. So then, like here Krishna is saying, in the previous work was very important, like I was saying, that there are so many paths where Krishna is putting you. So all the Elvis Presley and the Amitabh Bachchan worshippers, Krishna has created the road for them. You want to worship Amitabh Bachchan, I'll arrange for a temple of Amitabh Bachchan for you, and you can go and worship him like that, right? So that is where the mercy of a devotee comes into picture. You will stand on that third rung forever. Jnana yoga, right? You'll stay there forever. And until somebody comes and pulls you up, like Srila Prabhupada came and pulled up so many, right? Not that everybody was a hippie. There were many who were just jnanis, right? Great Srila Prabhupada gave them bhakti. So that is the essential difference between, what bhakti is the most important thing. And bhakti comes from bhakti. And the beauty about the bhakti is that this particular verse is talking about you quickly get some gains, right? But these gains are going to go away. With death, the gains, you have to lose everything. Everything is going to be lost. And no matter how much we think, whatever we do, how much pious activities we do, some pious careers will go with us. But whatever we accumulated in this life because of our previous pious births, we have to give up everything. That is, so bhakti is very, very important. And without bhakti, you cannot reach Krishna. You can be a jnani. You can be a jnani for a long time. See, there's a verse which Brahma sings to Krishna. And he says that Atha pite dev padam bhuja dvaya prasad leshanugrihita evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanyameko pichiram vichinvan. So this is about understanding and reaching God, right? So he says that Atha pite dev padam bhuja dvaya. So he's praying to Krishna. Brahma is praying to Krishna and he's saying that, that if I get Padam Bhuja Dvaya, right? So your feet like ambuj, like lotus-like feet, Dvaya, two, right? So if I get the shelter of your two lotus feet, Prasad Leshanu Grihita Evi. Prasad is the mercy. Lesha means very little. Lesha is like a filament, right? There's a rope and you take out a filament. So it's so thin, just a little bit. So if I get even a little bit of a mercy, of your mercy, to get the lotus shelter of your lotus feet. If I get this much of your mercy to get the shelter of your lotus feet, then I will be able to understand you, God. And anybody who gets that will be able to understand you, and not somebody, chiran vichanvam. Chiran means for a very long time. And somebody can be meditating and thinking and speculating about what God is. He's not going to get it. So bhakti is only going to come from God, right? However, so there is one road that goes, from Delhi to Bombay. But there's a road that goes to Jaipur. A person can take a road to Jaipur, but he's not going to reach Bombay unless somebody shows him the way from Jaipur to Bombay, right? So similarly, these people, they are there, they are worshipping, and then one fine day your idol worship, the person that was your idol dies, or he's found in some scandal, right? And then the eyes open like, oh, what was I doing? So there are so many ways in which Krishna will bring us back. He will bring us back, right? But it takes time, and that's why they say that bhakti is actually the elevator. And the yoga is a ladder. Yeah, if we go step by step, definitely we go step by step, but we don't have to necessarily go step by step. And also, because it's a ladder, there is opportunities for everybody to go to the next ladder. And what will take you to the next ladder will be your will and the mercy of a devotee or mercy of Krishna. Without the two of them, it's not possible. Right? Does it make it clear, Sadhana-Matji?
I mean, I think this group is all almost, we're all devotees. So this is very much about bhakti. I just felt like there's a need to understand the world so that we can help others. And if we bag everybody together, I wouldn't have put demigods together with the worship of Elvis Presley or with a film star, kind of that to me, because it doesn't feel right. It's sort of
they are not at the same they are not at the same level.
Okay.
And nobody is going to go to Amitabh Bachchan for sure that, hey, Amitabh Bachchan, help me be a devotee of the Lord. Nobody's going to go there, right? But to a demigod, you can definitely go. Why? What's the difference between Amitabh Bachchan and demigod?
Well, yes. So I'm sorry, but yeah, they're very different. But I think when we were talking, to me, it started to sound like it was all the same and that everybody was an atheist. And so that's why I was questioning it, because I was sitting there thinking, that's what I heard. So that's why I was getting confused, that everybody was the same and they're all atheists and nothing works unless this is, so that was why.
No, it's not like demigods are atheists. It's not demigods
are
atheists.
No, that's what I understand that, but I thought that's what I heard. That's why I'm asking if that's what you meant.
No. No. Very clear. Very clear. An atheist will be a person who's thinking that, I can, if I just think Varshana is able to do everything for me, I'll start worshipping her.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that. Okay.
That means I don't believe in Krishna, right?
Right. Yeah, that's not a God personality. It's just idol. Okay.
Yes.
So there is a delineation. Okay.
That's a delineation. And at the lowest level, people will do this also. Like, the immediate things, like Prabhupada gives that famous example, a person used to worship Hitler. Right? Hitler is so far away from a demigod, so far away from Elvis Presley also. At least Elvis Presley didn't do that stuff that Hitler did, right? He used to worship. Why? Because he made a lot of money during the World War, which was caused by Hitler. So people will worship for that. And then the question is that for what reasons are you worshiping them? Immediate satisfaction. We want everything immediate, right? I remember when I was growing up, for our parents, and I come from a middle class family, where even buying a house was a difficult, was an endeavor for people. And it was a norm. We were from I'm from a university town. My father was a professor there. And so everybody was professor or reader or lecturer. So everybody had almost the same income. And so it was university town. And the norm was that you work the whole life. And then in the end, you will get money. And then you buy a house and you settle down. Or maybe you don't even buy a house, right? But then as I was growing up, I came across that, and so I was also the same mentality that what's the big deal? What's the hurry? You don't have to buy a house. And, I could rent houses and I was living in other people's houses. And then I met my next generation of people at work, and they were like, they just got married and they went on to buy a house. And I was like, why are they buying a house so soon? And then I slowly, over the next couple of decades or decade and a half in India, I noticed that opportunities were available, loans were available, so that the day you're married or the first month or year that you're married, you can go and buy everything on loan. So that immediate gratification. You want a refrigerator, you can buy it on loan. You want a car, there's a loan for you. You want a home, there's a loan for you. Everything is available, Shipram, quickly, And if there are certain things that are not in the purview, then there are formulas. The Vedas give us those formulas to enjoy, right? You go to this demigod, go to that demigod, and they will give you those things like that, right? So people will go to different people according to the different levels of their desires that they have, right? If your desires are being satisfied by Hitler, and if that is what their focus is, they'll just go to Hitler, and that's fine, right? If their desires are at a level where none of the Hitlers or the presidents or anybody of this world can solve it, right? Like father is sick or son-in-law met with an accident and doctors say that he cannot live. At this point, no Amitabh Bachchan or anybody can save. That's when you will turn to demigods, right? They'll turn to demigods and start, doing some yagyas, do some prayers to pacify them so that they will do some mercy and then save it like that. So the degree to which you are wanting, you will also go to that same person and ask for it. Right? It happens in our offices also, right? If you just want somebody to cover for you on your shift, you will just turn to a colleague, right? But if you want a promotion, you have to go to your manager, right? Like that. So similarly here also, there's a hierarchy of, our desires, and similarly there's a hierarchy of where you go and get them from, right? Garima, and then Varshana Mataji, and then Meera. Varshana Mataji, you have to raise your hand so that I know the order.
So Mataji, I just wanted to bring this Bhagavad-gita verse where it says that worship to demigod is the wrong, it goes to me only, but it's a wrong path.
Avidhi Purvakam. Bhajanti Avidhi Purvakam. Yeah.
So the atheist term is the strong term is used just to make it like that, because it is better still not worshipping anyone.
It's absolutely better. And you see, Krishna is talking to a whole wide section of people. Bhagavad-gita is not just meant for Arjun, right? It's meant for everybody who's going to read it and listen to it in years to come, right? So he has to address all the parts of the audience. But so he's talking about everything. Krishna didn't leave anybody, right? Did he? He talks about the jnanis, he talks about the yogi, he talks about the atheist, Mayavadis. Of course, he talks about the bhaktas in the Bhagavad-gita. But chapter 18 is contents of the Gita, it's kind of like the everything is summarized and emphasized or concluded. There's a conclusions come in 18th chapter. And what's the biggest conclusion that he gives after talking about all these things? What's the biggest conclusion that we get in Bhagavad-gita? Chapter 18.
That let go of or abandon all religions and just surrender. I will deliver you from all sinful reactions.
Exactly, yeah. So we heard both the Sanskrit and the English translation simultaneously by Varchana and Sukumal. Thank you. Yeah, so Sarv Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tvam Sarva Papyebhyo Mokshidhami Sacha. After telling you this and that, he tells you, yeah, you want to go to demigods, you go to demigods, but they can't give you anything unless I am granting it, right? He tells you all that, but then in the end he's saying, okay, if you are intelligent, then this is what I'm telling you. That Sarv Dharman Parityajya, it's a very bold statement. Sarv Dharman Parityajya, Maham Ekam Sharanam Braja. Right? And he said that to his father also. What was the episode when he told that to his father?
When he was about to pray Indra, that time he said that he would pray to him.
Right, that festival of offering food to Indra. He was saying that you should not do that. You worship Vishnu straight away. Why should you worship Indra? Clearly, he said that to his father. Yeah. Meera, Mataji.
Oh, Hare Krishna. I was going to comment on the word bhakti, because when we talk about the word bhakti, we obviously mean Krishna consciousness here, and we think of Krishna, love towards him. But it is also a very general word too, because I was talking to a friend a few weeks ago after a long time, and his brother had passed away maybe 5-6 months ago, and I just happened to call her talk to her for the first time. And I was giving her my condolences, and she said, Oh, my brother passed away very peacefully. He was so much in bhakti for the last 2 years. So when she said that, I automatically assumed bhakti, like we talk Krishna consciousness. So I was just about to say something, and then she goes, I mean, still it was good because she was thinking it was so great. Her brother was in bhakti. But then she said that, oh, he kept on saying Om, Om, Om Namah Shivaya. So she used the word bhakti for that. And I just to me, I realized that in Krishna consciousness, when we talk about bhakti, we specifically mean bhakti towards Krishna.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And then the word bhakti is used very loosely. Like, people also say that, the son is a bhakt of the parents because he's serving them, right? So devotional service is loving devotional service. And then there is pure devotional service, right? So devotional service, bhakti can also be done with a more ulterior motive. I can be serving someone with a motive, right? To get something. I can serve my manager to get a promotion, right? Or just to be in the good books, like that. But real bhakti is pure devotional services. Anyabhyashita shunyam jnana karmadina vitam anukulyana krishnano shilanam bhakti uttama. That is what pure devotional service is, right? When you do it, yeah. And so that is why it is so important. I grew up in India. I grew up in a family which was, my mom was spiritual, but nobody sat me down till I was 47. And through Prabhupada's book, I understood. I just thought that there is God. And then, he just multiplies himself and he shows sometimes as Ganesh and sometimes everybody's God. I didn't even know that there was a difference between Bhagwan and Devta. I did not even know whether the God and demigod meant. I hadn't even heard the word demigod, actually. I only heard the word demigod when I heard Prabhupada's translations.
Yes.
Right? Before that, I knew Devta, but I thought, yeah, Devta is just all these Ganesh and all that. These are all just Devtas, right? And which is, they are just God, right? This is God who comes as all these forms. Sometimes he comes as this, sometimes he comes that. So when I read the Bhagavad-gita and I realized what it is, and of course Prabhupada explained that, and that's when the eyes were open. So that's why, Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjan Shalakya. So he opens the eyes, and that is what is very important for us, to open our eyes. Open our eyes towards the demigod, and so what is the difference? What is the difference worshipping demigods and worshipping Krishna? So one thing between the previous verse and this verse was, in the previous Krishna said, Mama ye yatha ma pradandyante tam satyava bhajamiham. So the way people surrender unto me, I will reward them accordingly, right? So the Krishna is the one who's giving everything. He's rewarding or punishing, whatever he's doing, he's giving it. So then why does he talk about demigod worship in the next verse, right? Kankshanta karma. So here is the key word is Shipram. Have you heard the word Shipram anywhere else in Bhagavad-gita? Shipram means, we didn't do our regular exercise of going through all the word meaning, right? Our favorite. So let's just try that and see. Yeah, here we go. Let's share the screen, and we are doing 14. Okay. So let's go through the whole thing here. Kankshanta means desiring, right? Kankshai in Hindi we say. So kankshanta means desire it. Karmanam, fruitive activity. So the word karma is used in so many different words, but here the main thing is fruitive activities, where you're looking at the fruits or the phal or the results, right? Siddhim, perfection. So I want perfection in my results. Yajante, worship by sacrifices. Iha, in this material world. Devataha, the demigods. Shipram means
very quickly.
Very quickly. He means certainly. Manushe, in human society. Loke, within this world. Siddhihi, success. Bhavati, comes. Karmaja, from fruitive work. Right? So Shipram is very quickly. And we have heard the word Shipram earlier also, where in the very famous verse from Bhagavad-gita 9.30, it says, Api chet suduracharo bhajte mam ananya bhak sadhur eva samantyavya samyak vyavasito hi saha. And then in the next verse 31, he says, Shipram bhavati dharmatma shatvat shantim nigacchati Shipram. So he's talking that even if you see somebody doing abominable activities, a devotee, you don't consider them to be non-devotee. Why? Shipram bhavati dharmatma. Very quickly they will become dharmatma. Why? Because they are engaged in that devotional service, and devotional service itself is so powerful that devotional service is going to bring you back to your senses. The very fact that you did a little bit of devotional service. If you didn't do any devotional service in your previous lives, then you start from 0. If you did a 1% devotional service, reach level 1, then you will start from level 2 in this life, right? But if you passed masters in computer science in your previous birth, then in this birth, from where do you start? Kindergarten again, right? That's how it is with the material world, that you're not able to carry anything out of this material world. Nothing. So there's this story that I was hearing the other day, which was about a king. And that king was a very powerful king and had sons, and they were also powerful princes. He had a beautiful wife and many other beautiful wives. And so he was sitting in his courtroom with all his courtmen, ministers, and then a palm reader, a Jyotish, came into his court. And so the king said, out of curiosity, that, okay, like, why didn't you read my palm? So he looks at his palm, and then he looks at the king, and then he says, I have some bad news, and I have some good news also. So kings, which one do you want to hear first? So as it happens in our day-to-day lives also, right? If somebody comes and tells you, give me the bad news and give me the good news, which one would you want to hear first?
Bad.
Bad. Why?
Because then you feel good after hearing the good news.
Right. And why? Because we are pleasure seekers. We are seeking pleasure, right? And the pleasure and we are scared that the pleasure that I'll get from the good news is going to be destroyed by the sorrow of the bad news I'm going to hear. So that's why we do it all the time, right? If there's Karela and there is custard, which one will you eat first? No, you'll eat Karela. He won't eat Karela in the end. Actually, I was a friend. It was so funny. Back in India, we used to buy this peanuts and then mungpali, singdana, and then open it and eat it, right? So he had this theory, and apparently his father passed on this theory to him, and his father said that if you're eating a bag of peanuts and then you're on the last peanut, right? He said, it's better you throw it away because if it's a bad one and you eat the last one, then you'll have a bad taste in your mouth. So just throw it away. Don't even go there. So that's a sense of how much we crave for pleasure. And why do we crave for pleasure? Because, by nature, we are anandamayo bhyasat. We are by nature happy people. Why? Because Krishna is a reservoir of pleasure and we are coming from him. Mame mancho jivale, okay? The only thing is that our pleasures are misdirected in this material world. We do not know what our pleasures are meant for, right? And it was so funny that we had a meeting with Vaisheshika Prabhu earlier this week, and we were, talking about raising funds for ISKCON and Krishna consciousness. And so he was telling us that, when you ask people for money, don't be shy of asking, don't feel bad. In fact, the team in which I work, the team major charter is to, get money. So it's like we're always thinking about Lakshmi all the time. And so he said that Prabhupada had his team and he had assigned work to that team to go and generate funds for ISKCON to set up, temples and this and that, offices and all that in various parts, print books. So they needed money. And he said, well, those people who went to ask money, they were derided. and others also said that, these bhaktas are what they're thinking about money. But he said something very nice. He said that don't hesitate to ask money. You just tell them that, your Lakshmi, I'm taking it to Vishnu.
Lakshmi and Vishnu.
Yeah. So it was so funny because he also said that, our job, it was amazing. He said it was our job to help Sadhana Mataji, what was he said? It was a very nice statement. Our job is to lighten the burden What was that, Sadhana Mataji?
No, you were on the right track. Go
I was
ahead.
like, lighten the burden of having to manage so much of Lakshmi. So
Yes.
give some to us, we'll put it for Krishna. Like that,
yeah,
right?
and to help make sure that Lakshmi finds the way back to Vishnu.
Finds the way back to Vishnu.
Which is the real goal, yeah.
Which is the real goal, yeah. So amazing. So anyway, so back to our king. So the king said that, so he says that, there's the good news, the bad news. This is okay, give me the bad news first. So he says that you're going to die in 5 months. And then he said, what can be the good news after this, right? So he says, well, the good news is that you're going to go to one of the heavenly planets. And you're going to have a big kingdom over there, bigger than what you have here. Because of all the pious activities that you've done, you'll be elevated, right? That particular verse from 9th chapter, right? So they follow all the Vedic injunctions, which are there in part of the Vedas, which are Karma Kandi sections of Vedas. So he did all that, and you'll go there. So the king feels a little bit better, and the Jyotish is holding his hand and still reading it. And so the king says, "Oh, let go of my hand." But he says, "No, wait. I see something more." And he says, "What's more?" Now, this is something those who are from an India background might be able to appreciate that more. The Sadhana Mataji, since you have not lived in India, you might not know this. So he says, "Well, you'll go to the heavenly planet, but there's a problem there." He said, "What's the problem?" Well, that heaven that there are many heavens, right? They use the word seventh heaven and things like that, right? So there are many heavenly planets. So the planet that you are going to go to after you die, there are very big mosquitoes in that planet. And they're very big mosquitoes. And, they are so poisonous that if they bite you, then you will die, which basically means that you will descend from the heavenly planet back into this, earthly planets. So then the king says, then what is the good news? So he says, the good news is that these mosquitoes, they're inside that planet. They're not at the entrance of the planet. So when you enter the planet, they give you a mosquito net. All that you have to do is just go inside. As long as you stay inside the mosquito net, you'll be safe, and you'll have everything. You'll have a big army. You'll have a big, family. You'll have a beautiful wife there. You'll have riches. Everything is there. Just stay inside. So king says, "Well, that's fine. That's manageable. We'll manage it. I mean, 10 times the opulence here. I'm ready for it. Doesn't matter if I'm going to die after 5 years. It's guaranteed I'm going to get happiness after my death there also." So then there's just this palm reader is not letting go of the king's hands. So the king says, "I'll leave my hand." He says, No, Rajan, I have to. Yeah, I'm still seeing something here. So he says, what? He says, the problem is that I'm also seeing that the mosquito net that'll be given to you has a hole in it. And it is as big. It is big enough to allow the mosquitoes to come inside. And then the king is like, darn, what is it? So he says, okay, then what's the good that you see in the hand? And he pulls away his hand. So then the palm reader says that, the good thing is that, if you have a needle and a thread, you can just sew that hole and you'll be good. The mosquitoes won't come and bite you. So he says, that's very good. He says, all that you have to do is make sure when you die, you carry a needle and a thread with you. The king is very happy, and then he just calls his sons and his wives and his misters and all everybody. He comes in and he's very grave, and he just says, "You don't feel bad about it. I'm going to die in 5 months from now, but here's the thing that I'm going to go to a better planet. And you all are going to follow me later, sooner or later there, and we're going to have a big kingdom. Please just make sure that when I die, that make sure arrange for a needle and a thread to go with me." And then everybody starts laughing at him. And that's when the king realized that, from here, you don't take anything with you, not even a needle and a thread. You are just not allowed to take anything, which is very alarming if you want to close your eyes and imagine what that means. To leave your favorite pen behind, to leave your favorite glasses, to leave your favorite clothes, the food in the fridge, the ice cream, which is freezing. Everything has to be left, and we are helplessly pulled out of the body. against our will, whether we like it or not like it. And it's like, it's done, over, finished. So all these things, there's a temporary gains that people are running after. They are literally running after. They will all be left behind. So the difference between, what is the difference between what Krishna also gives us and the demigods also give us, right? What is the difference in the giving? And why are we saying that we should not pray to the demigods? Because the demigods are going to give you according to your greed. And Krishna gives us what we need. And it's a big difference. And greed, insatiable. Sutapa Mataji.
Mataji, I just remember the other day I was reading like attachment is sin. So just remember means when you told that we cannot take anything. So, and another thing, that means every moment we have to think the whole life that this could be my last moment.
Yes. And always remember that Parikshit Maharaj had 7 days, right? He knew that he had 7 days to live, right? And we don't even know that.
Yeah.
Right? So there is no limit to how much greed that you can have. Krishna will give you what you need. And this is so interesting that, we used to go, my husband and I, when we were married, we were in Delhi. And so we used to go to a shop. It was Guptaji's shop. It was a grocery shop where you could get, biscuits and bread and butter and, those kind of things that you buy. And soap, that kind of a shop. So we used to go to his shop. And then they used to have like a cabinet in front of them. And then he would have his scales there. So if he's weighing something there, and you would transact over that counter, right? And underneath that counter, there would be shelves, etc. And all, So we never bothered about that. We would usually be like, bread was kept in this way. So we'd just go there and say, we want bread. So just pay us bread from here, pay and get going. So, and then after some years, our daughter was born. And then she was 2 years old. So she went with us to that shop. We took her on a walk and we went there. And so we were transacting over the counter, buying this and that. And suddenly we see this little one is very agitated. He's saying, ye lumma, ye lumma, ye lumma. I want this, I want this, I want this. And we were like, she's not even looking at any of these things which are up there. And she's there at her height. And from there she's saying, I want this, I want this. That's when I bent to her level to see what is it that she wants. And then I realized that this shopkeeper, and all these years I had never noticed it, this shopkeeper had got the counter over which we used to transact. Underneath the counter were shelves, and they were covered with glass, transparent glass. Anything that was kept in the shelf could be seen by those who were at that height, those whose height was lower than the shelf height, the little ones, so to speak. They could see what was there on the shelf. And the shelf was full of chocolates and M&Ms and whatever the things, the gems they used to call it. And she had seen something over there, and she was like, I want this, I want this, I want this. You're literally there making a ruckus. I want this. And I was like, look at that. And then we were saying that, no, this is chocolate. This is not good for your teeth. Right? Whereas the shopkeeper has displayed right at her level so that she sees it and she can demand it. Right? So when Krishna gives things to us, he's like the parent who sees what is really good for you and what is not good for you. And if he thinks that, having the burden of managing too much of wealth is going to be a difficult thing and is going to be a deterrent in our devotional service, he will make sure that we don't get that wealth. He will make sure, right? For a devotee, he takes things in his own hands, right? So that is why, that is the difference. Demigods, they operate on a particular formula. They operate on a particular formula, they do that formula, and then they go away, right? They are bound by certain laws of the material nature. And that is why Ravana, he prayed, right? He prayed, and then he was praying. Who was Ravana praying to?
Lord Shiva.
Lord Shiva.
and then he gets the benedictions.
Yeah.
Right? So also one of the things is that there is kripa, right? I sang that song, right? Kripanuleshanu grihita evahi. I just want a little filament of your mercy. I want a little filament of your kripa, right? So we want a little filament of the kripa. So then the devtas can also have kripa, right? Anybody can have mercy on me, right? Depends on what kind of a mercy you're looking at. So there's a difference between the mercy of a demigod and the mercy of Krishna. And the demigod's mercy is called kapat kripa. Kapat kripa is that there is some cunningness, there is some twist to that, there's a fine print in that, right? And we see that classic example of fine print in the case of Hiranyakashipu, right? Hiranyakashipu, Brahma granted everything. He wanted this, he wanted that. Brahma was saying, don't ask me for immortality. I can't give you. Okay, you can't give me immortality. How about this? I won't be killed by a man. I won't be killed by an animal. I won't be killed in the day. He created his entire contractual document. And Brahma said, Tathastu. Right? This is what demigods do. They are just wired. They are just God's agent, and they are just carrying out the orders of Krishna. So they will do that. On the other hand, Krishna, on the other hand, might do certain things which are for your own good, which might make him appear so merciless, like taking away the mother of 5-year-old Narada Muni. How bad is that? He never had a father in the first place. Now you take away the mother also. But then what happened?
It was actually considered it as a mercy.
As a mercy, right? That is why a devotee, when he is in trouble, says, Tatten kampam susamikhamano munjanamivatmakipam vipakam hitvagvapube vitadhan namaste jive tayo mukti pade sadaya bhak. Right? So he says, it is your I deserve verse. And because I'm your devotee, you are being lenient to me, and you are making the effect of my punishment, you're diluting the effects of my punishment, right? So demigods are here just to apply band-aid on our wounds which are sore and they are rotting. They will help you apply a little bit of band-aid, or if this material world is hurting, then I'm going for some painkillers, right? For example, sometimes people have a pinched nerve, and so some nerve is getting pinched because of some inflation. It's pressing, so it's sending signals that something is pressing, so that sends shooting pains in some other part of the body. So the symptom is that you are having pain, and the solution is, there are two solutions. You can start popping painkillers after painkillers after painkillers, right? Or you can go and find out the root cause of that pain. So painkillers, demigods will give us painkillers. Okay? And in most of the prayers that you find in India, it is like vipada. Vipada means some distress has come, some calamity has come on us. Vipada, calamity. So taro means to postpone. Taro means to postpone, and people do not understand. People of my less intelligence, they do not understand. All that they have said is postpone this. I remember I had a friend, and he was into this palmistry and forecast when a child is born, horoscopes and all that kind of stuff. So he got the horoscope made for his daughter, and so the horoscope said that this girl is going to be, for the first 3 months or something like that, she's going to be very heavy on the father, which means that father can die also, and those kind of things, right? Heavy means anything. So it's going to be heavy on the father. So then he asked the Pandit, what should I do? He said, okay, then you can postpone it. Do this and do that. And so he did some yagyas and all that. So nothing happened for the next 2.5 months, right? But then we have to remember that it got postponed. So how much harm can a 2.5-year-old child do for you than a teenager, than a 30-year-old child, right? You see, your 60-year-old daughter, right, can kill you. So postponing is not a good idea. And remember, this postponement can happen to the next life or next lives also, which will force you to come back again and go through it again. So that's all the demigods are doing, is cheating. They're cheating you, and we are foolish to accept that. Why? Because the laws of material nature are like Newton's third law. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if you have done something and where you deserve to be punished, you will get the punishment. It's not like how it is here in the material world. If they were son of a rich man and you drive your car over some innocent man, you will still be safe and you won't be put to jail or put to the gallows for manslaughter. No, because you are influential. That thing doesn't happen in the material world. If you did something wrong against the laws of Krishna, right? Dharmatu sakshat bhagwan pranittam. What is dharma is defined by Krishna and not by anybody else. So he has defined the laws, and if you do not obey those laws, you will be punished, guaranteed. Only thing you can do is get some postponement for that. So you're going to get that again. So there is no point. So demigods are going to give you painkillers. They're not going to go to the root cause. And the root cause of all the distress, what is the root cause of our distress? Why do we have pain in this world? Why do we have distress? Why do you have heartaches? Why do we have difficulties? Why does it happen? What is the reason? Some have more, some have less.
First of all, Mataji, desire, expectation,
lust only.
Lust only, desire, right? Our sufferings are because of our previously committed sins. And of course, we do desires, and in nunam prabatta kurute vikarmana, that we have desires, and because of to fulfill the desires, we will do more sinful activities. So we keep on adding to that, bag of already karma that we have. We keep on adding. That is why it's not a good idea to stay in this material world for a long time, thinking that I'll be saved. I have got good amount of good karma. I have a bag full of good karma. I will only enjoy in this world. No, that enjoyment will lead to more corruption. Can lead to corruption like that, right? And there is no end to how much you can spend, right? I mean, I was just reading about Dhirubhai Ambani, the rich guy from India, right? And he has a house which is like $2.2 billion house where he lives, where his servants, the expenses on the servants that maintain that house, right? The upkeep that house is about 3 lakh rupees a day for the servants who are there. His wife, when she sits down to have breakfast, she drinks from a cup. The tea set costs 3 lakh rupees. It comes from Japan. Like that, a cup, 3 lakhs. And what are you drinking? Tea. So there is no limit to how much you can ask for, how much you can get, how much you can accumulate. But all of that, will be left behind here. Everything will be left behind here. Demigods cannot promise you that. Yanti deva vrita devan pritrin yanti prativata bhutani yanti bhutyaja. Right? So yanti mad yajinopi mam. So those who worship the demigods will maximum go to the planet of the demigods. And when it's time for the demigods to leave their bodies, then you will also have to leave your body, because that planet is being destroyed. They cannot take you out of this material cycle. Right? They are servants of the god nonetheless. And that is the distinction between the Amitabh Bachchans and the Sachin Tendulkars and the demigods. They are not equal, right? The demigods are devotees of the Lord who have been entrusted by the Lord, as Prabhupada said in the purport, entrusted by the Lord to perform the managerial activities for this material world. It doesn't mean that they have been completely rid of all the anarthas. This is very, very important to know. They are not completely freed. And that is why you will see things like Brahma Vimohan Leela. That once in a while, even Brahma gets bewildered in his upper story and he will do these kind of things, right? However, when such a thing happens, what does God do? He quickly brings them back to line. Shipram Bhavati Dharmatma, right? Brahma was bewildered, and then he took away the calves for a fraction of his second in his time, which became 1 year on this planet, but that's another thing. But for a fraction of a second, he tried that, but then he understood and he was sorry for that. And then he, sang praises of the Lord, the beautiful 14th chapter from Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma's prayers, right, to the Lord. Similarly, Indra, right? Indra did that Govardhan thing, right? In that the Govardhan then. So so when they are handling these kinds of like power corrupts, and when there is some leshan, some filaments of dirt is still remaining in the consciousness, it can get expanded. Right? The only thing that saves is the devotional service of the Lord. Right? So, and interesting thing about mercy that comes from Krishna is that Bali Maharaj, right? Bali Maharaj is the grandson of a very famous devotee. Bali Maharaj. Whose grandson is he?
Prahlad.
Prahlad.
Prahlad Maharaj, exactly right? So he has heard about devotional service from Prahlad Maharaj. Bali Maharaj, he heard it, right? He's from a family where the grandfather is a devotee, such a big devotee of the Lord, right? And he had defeated the Devtas also. Right? He had defeated the Devtas, and now he was, so there was dharma. He was following the dharma. He had Shukracharya for his teacher. He was following his guru. He was serving his guru nicely, and by the mercy of the guru, he was able to defeat the demigods, who, on the other hand, were headed by Indra, who had insulted his spiritual master Brihaspati, and he was abandoned by Brihaspati, and that's why Indra and the demigods lost the war. And now Bali Maharaj was ruling every place, right? And so all that got to his head. And then Krishna came as
Vamandev.
Vamandev, right? He comes as Vamandev, right? And asks for 3 pieces of land, right? And he was like, oh, 3 pieces of land. Come on, you're such a little, petite. You're asking for this, ask for something more. He said, no. That is sufficient for me. And then he took one step, all this half of the planetary systems, and the second step, complete the universe. And now he's asking that, what should I do? So now Bali Maharaj is in extreme distress. And this is the good thing about devotional service, that if you have done even a lesha matra, sualpam asa jagata trayate mahato bhayat. So even if you have done a little bit of devotional service in your life, when you are in the extreme of distress, then it will come back to you. So when he was in extreme of distress, that I am like the big Lord of this universe, right? And, large parts of it, at least till the heavenly planetary systems, I've conquered everything. And I promise that I'll give 3 steps worth of land to this little boy. And I'm not able to fulfill my promise to him. What should I do? And then, of course, he sees Krishna in him and he understands that God has, so his devotional service comes out and he says, put your foot on my head. Right? And so that was the breaking of his ego, right? Such a big king and a dwarf is putting his foot on your head. How bad can that be? And then his ego breaks, but then ultimately we see that although apparently looks like Krishna insulted him, degraded him, internally we see that Krishna broke his ego, which is very much a big deterrent to the devotional service. I was just reading a post that somebody sent to me the other day, which said that yoga is a martial art. Yoga is connection to Krishna. So he's saying yoga is a martial art, but you have you fight a very powerful enemy, which is your ego. Like, yes, ego is karta ham iti manyate. That is the ego. I am able to do everything. I'm intelligent. I understand this. I understand that. I will not bow down to Krishna. I don't think Krishna is God, right? Like that. So, so that's what he had. So he shattered his ego, which was very good because it was a deterrent to his devotional service. And then he also says that I am going to become your
gatekeeper
or doorman, right? I'm going to become your doorman. Yeah. So that then Krishna is going to be with you every day. What more day do you need? You're already in Vaikuntha, right? He's there with you like that. So Krishna's mercy. This is Krishna's mercy.
He pressed him, he went to the Patal, Mother?
Yes.
Bali Maharaj? Yeah.
Yes. So, so that is Krishna's mercy. And then he went to the lower planetary systems where there is even more opulence. There's a lot of opulence there. And I told a few months or so ago that there are women who are like the Kamanis and the Panchalis and all those kind of women who will just entice you and you will never be able to get out of that. So he's staying there as his doorman, keeping him safe from all the women there who will, just again degrade him from the path of devotional service. So So that is, that is what Krishna does. So that is why there is that, we have to understand the difference, right? That Krishna will go to the root cause and eliminate the root cause of your problem, right? And not just give you painkillers. Painkillers are only going to worsen the problem, okay? Because the pain is gone. Pain is one of the way of the body to tell you there's something wrong in some part of the body. If there's no pain, you'll never know, right? There's something wrong. So then why do people go to the demigods, right? Sometimes, of course, people go to the demigods because of they want something, immediate result, Chipram, right? They want immediate and quickly. But sometimes, or what also happens, some people have this kind of a thought process where they might say that, I am so fallen that, I'm too impure. I'm too impure. I'm so bad. I'm so fallen that I will never become pure. Krishna is just beyond my reach. This is for the first class citizens. I'm third class. So I will just make do with my third class method of devotional service. I know Krishna is saying all that, but I'm not worth it. So when we think that, I am so impure that I cannot reach Krishna, there is a flaw in that kind of a thinking. And the flaw is in that kind of a thinking is about the reach. And the reach is that, I'm saying that, here is Krishna, and that I'll never be able to reach that because I'm not that kind of a bird that can fly that high. I'm so fallen, right? But we are underestimating Krishna's reach. Who said that Krishna cannot reach out to you? Krishna reaches out to the most fallen, and the good news of Kali Yuga is that the more fallen you are, the more mercy you get, right? The more fallen you'll see, suddenly they take a turn and they become devotees of the Lord. Now, of course, once you become a devotee of the Lord and you take initiation and all that, now you can't say that I'm the most fallen and then I'll continue to be the most fallen, or I will fall down again now so that Krishna will give me mercy. No, now you have gone and climbed a rung and you are on a different ladder and now different rules are going to apply to you. But when you are at that level, lowest level, then the mercy is flowing all the time. Varshana Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, you said that you don't know the mercy of the Lord, that Krishna can reach you. Mataji, from the very childhood, I have been worshipping Saraswati Ma. And you see, I don't have the picture, but I have I got a trophy from the management, from the Zilla Parishad. You see, they give to the teachers, you see, the best teachers of the year, best teacher of the year. So one trophy I got once. On that, you see, Saraswati Ma's picture is there. It is carved. And I pray to her that you have always helped me in some way or the other. Today, I ask you to help me to study the scriptures and help me to reach Krishna. So that is also bad?
No, that is not bad. And that's what I was saying originally to Sadhana Mataji's question, is that when people go to the demigods and ask things of demigod, there are two kinds of things one can ask demigod, right? One is pure, kankshanta karmanam siddhim. I want, good results for my fruitive activities. I want result. I want them fast. Quick promotion, I want to win the lottery, quick money, quick. I want that. That's one thing. Second is that we can always pray to the Lord. Like I can pray to Shiva and say, make me a devotee of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so if you are a devotee, right? If you are a devotee of the Lord, Varshana Mataji, right? You are worshipping Krishna. Now, if somebody comes to you and says that, Varshana Mataji, you are God. immediately you're going to say, no, I'm not God. Krishna is God, right? The same thing happens to Shiva also, that people will worship Shiva. Sometimes people worship Shiva, they worship Hanuman. These worships are very famous, right? So people can be worshiping these. And then when we finally reach and then we make them happy, what do? They then take you and show you the path to Krishna. So Shivji, ultimately, even if a person is saying Om Namo Shivaya, I do Om Namo, somebody was saying, right? Meera Mataji was saying that person says Om Namo Shivaya, he was a bhakta, right? Yeah, that is incomplete bhakti, but Shiva will help him go to the right path. Go to the right path. So that is why I was saying that, we need help. We need the help of a devotee of the Lord or the mercy of Krishna to go and finally do the ultimate in bhakti, which is Sarv Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja, to do that, right? So that's how it's going to happen. And then also remember that there are two different Saraswatis. The Saraswati that was there on your plaque that your Jila Parishad gave you is mundane Saraswati, because you achieved something good on the mundane plane. But when it comes to devotional service, there's a different Saraswati. Divya Saraswati, she's divine Saraswati, and then divine Saraswati gives us divine knowledge, and mundane Saraswati will teach us trigonometry and calculus and all kinds of material things. Right? So that we have to remember is there, right? So when Krishna is going to give us his mercy, he is, when it comes to worship of the demigods, it has to be done in a proper way, proper manner, proper recitation of verses, this and that. You need 9 kinds of grains, so it should be 9. It should not be 8. Those kind of things. Otherwise, the results won't happen, right? But when we are sincerely praying to Krishna, Krishna is actually not looking at our shortcomings. Krishna is actually looking at the receptivity. Our receptivity. Are we ready to achieve? Are we ready to receive his mercy? That is what, but what we have done in this material world is that we have turned our back towards him, right? And we just think that, I'm not pure enough. And we mistake that the prerequisite for devotional service is my purity, right? The prerequisite really is the receptivity. How willing am I to receive the knowledge that is coming from Krishna through the disciplic succession, through the spiritual master? How much receptive am I? Tadvidhi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya updeshyanti te jnanam jnanina tatpradarshanaha. Like that, right? So that is what it is. Varshana Mataji?
No, Mataji, it's over.
Oh, okay. You were. I thought you were. Okay. All right. So, yeah, just give me a second here. So demigod worship and worship Krishna. So then, and it is Bhagavad-gita, it is Bhagavad-gita that helps us avoid entering into these kind of situations where he's saying, Shipram bhavati dharmatma, he's saying people are bad, you don't go and judge. They will, because they are doing devotional service, they will, they will take care of it. Now, again, going back to the demigod worship. Why demigod worship? We ask you to take it with a pinch, with a little bit of trepidation and caution, actually, right? For example, if you say that I used to go to a temple and there was a lady who used to come there, and she would come with a yagya kund. And actually, when I used to go to the temple, she would be departing from the temple with a yagya kund. So one day I asked her that, hey, we got talking, and then she said that, I was suffering from some skin disease, and I did this yagya, and I'm feeling better now. So I just thought, oh, wow, because I never came from a family where we did yagyas like that. It was like, you have a skin disease, go to the doctor kind of a thing. And then later on the temple, the priest told some of us that when this girl used to come, and she was a young lady, must be 35, in her 35 or early 30s, like that. When she used to walk, pieces of skin would fall off of her body. And, the doctors just didn't know what to do. And this Pandit was very good at Karamkandi activities. I had seen that. And so So he did the yagya, and then everything, to me, she used to appear to be normal, no skin problem I could see, but then that was her state that it was. So obviously they were doing some demigod worship there, right? They were worshipping the god of skin, whoever that demigod is. So one of the things that we have to keep in mind about demigods is that what we are deriding here are not the demigods. We are deriding the worship of the demigods for our ulterior materialistic gains, to help us enjoy this material world. This is what we are saying, do not do. We have to respect demigods because they are devotees of the Lord. Do demigods make mistake? Yes, you all will say yes. Talk about Indra, right? But Indra is a devotee. And when we see narrations of Indra making some mistakes, we have to understand that these are extremes that are there. And they are meant to showcase, what not to do, or what the bad things can do to a person, what lust can do to a person, like that. Okay, so we have to see those things in that light, but always demigods are devotees of the Lord. Always think of them in that mode, and don't try to bribe them through doing these kinds of yagyas and things like that, right? So what is the difference? Like, some people might just have this habit that, they won't even go to the doctor. They won't even take any medicine. They will go to a demigod and get everything done through yagyas. They do all that. They start the day with yagya. So the difference is that when you are giving medicine, when you're taking medicine, then you are operating at the level of the body, right? You're taking a medicine, you're trying to cure something here, it gets cured. When you're doing demigod worship, right, it changes your consciousness, which is subtle. It's not at the gross level, right? Medicines will only treat gross things, right? Now this affects your consciousness. And how does it affect your consciousness? When you do devotional service, then you of a demigod, then you do all the same things that you do when worshipping Krishna. Om Namo Shivaya, Om Namo Shivaya. You're chanting. So you're doing chanting, right? Deity worship, right? Offering water. Everything, keeping vratas, fasting, giving donations, everything that you do for Krishna, you're also doing for demigod. And if your consciousness is not, so then what is happening is that instead of Krishna, you are doing it for the demigod, right? So this demigod worship is not in alignment with what Krishna has said, and which you all quoted, Sarv dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshishyami ma suchaha. Right? He's saying, don't go there, don't go there. He said that loud and clear, right? Loud and clear, he says that. But then we just are greedy. We want quick results. And then, we think, this is what we think, most of us, we think that money is the means for living. If I don't have money, I can't live, I can't enjoy life, right? That is why I live. I live for money. It's not that money is used just to fulfill a few of my basic necessities. No, I live to make money. Not that I need some money, little money to live. I live to make money. That is my purpose. So as long as we are thinking that way, then, greed is going to increase, right? So at the highest level are those people who think you need some money to fulfill your basic desires. It's not the purpose of life. Then you are good. But if you think money is the purpose of life, then what is going to happen is that money is the purpose of our life, then greed is going to control us. As long as we think that money is just a little means for me to live my life, it's not the purpose of my life, you have control over the greed. If you make money the purpose of your life, then greed has control over you. If you think that money is the only purpose of life, then greed has complete control over you. Complete control. And we have seen so many stories of how much land does a man need, right? 6 feet to be buried, like that, right? So that is the main difference that we have to keep in mind, is that when we are doing demigod worship, then results are going to come quicker. But there's always a fine print. Always a fine print, right? Chitraketu asked for a son. And he was clearly told by Narad Muni, by Angira Muni, that, you're asking for a son, we can give you a son, but you know what? He's going to give you happiness and joy. Clearly said that, not even a fine print, but he said, yeah, I want it. And then what happened? Son died. And now there is Shoka. So when we go for these quick short-term gains, this is what happens. Demigods. And Krishna says that subsequently in 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, we will come across that he says that, while they are worshipping the demigods, but they are worshipping in the wrong way. Bhajati avadi purvakam. And whatever they give, all those results come from him only. They come from Krishna only, because not a blade of grass moves without Krishna's mercy. But the good thing that we need to do is that we should only worship Krishna. And so the question, somebody might ask this question, but what if I really think that money is the ultimate goal of life? What if I think like that? Dhruv Maharaj thought that way, right? His own purpose was to get a kingdom better than his Brahma. So for him, money was everything. But akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajete purusham param. So whether you are desireless, akama, sarva kama, or you are full of desires, you should always go to Krishna. Because if you are even on the wrong foot like Dhruva, the very fact that he went to Krishna, right? And Krishna appeared as Prishni-garbha, and he touches his forehead with his conch shell. And then the divine light glows in Dhruva, and he says, what was I asking for? Pieces of glass. You are a diamond. You are here in front of me. Like that, right? So always akama sarva kama va moksha kama udharitihi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusham param. So always we should, be worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And for that, you need spiritual intelligence to do that. And spiritual intelligence will come to you through the study of Shastras, through the mercy of devotees, by following the footsteps of your spiritual masters and following the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, and staying away from bribing the demigods, because that will have its negative effect on us. Okay. So with this, I will close today. Any last thoughts, anybody? Sadhana Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Sorry, I have one more question. Just, we're living in a world where, we're going through droughts and so forth. So, I like many years ago when I lived in England, they had a drought, and all the pandits and the temples, they all got together in a place called Crystal Palace, which is like a huge setting where there was like a world exposition many moons ago. But everybody got together and did a yagna for the rain, because the drought was so severe. So how does that play out? Because we're going into a world where the droughts are going to be severe, and I hear, that's at that scale, like it's not a personal gain, but it's a little higher. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a pious activity. So people do pious activities, right? I mean, just because we are Krishna conscious doesn't mean that we won't open. We are against opening of hospitals, distributing of food, bringing things. Well, they did it. Now here's interesting thing, and I've seen Malini Mataji tell this 2 times. California went through drought also, right? And every time they would have Harinam, they would have rain here. So Harinam can also bring the rain, except for we are not that pure in chanting the holy names of the Lord. So chanting the names of the Lord, Krishna can bring both the rains, and he can stop the rains also through his Govardhan. Leela, right? It's a pious activity meant for the good of the Lord, for the good of the world, right? It is not the ultimate good though, right? However, we have compassion for the people because water is a necessity, right? If you don't have water, then not only will the non-devotees suffer, even the devotees are going to suffer, right? The devotees also need water to take shower. I think they need more water to take showers, right? 3 times a day. So these are pious activities and people will be there. People will always be there. And that is why somebody also asked that question of Srila Prabhupada, what if everybody becomes brahmachari? What will happen to those souls who have to take birth here if nobody produces children? What's going to happen? And he said, don't worry. There will always be. There will always be souls. Go by this, statistical models. There will always be somebody there. So there will always be people who will be there to open the hospitals, there to do yagyas, to bring the rain and things like that. And that's fine. But what is the ultimate good for mankind? Few people have to be there to give and explain what is the ultimate good of mankind. But if you look at, but it is difficult, and it's one of the very famous saying in India is "Bhuke pet na bhaja Gopala." That if you're hungry, then for the general public, it's very difficult to take and chant the names of the Lord. And I'm reminded of the Sadhana Mataji. What is that? Maslow's triangle of basic needs. That triangle, right? So at the bottommost level, there are certain kinds of needs: food, shelter, and then recognition, and those kind of things come to the top. And what that basically means is that if you're hungry, then we cannot. You won't be thinking about esteem, right? No. It's like, where is food? Where is food, right? So similarly, when people are in a drought kind of a situation, and if I just go and tell them, you chant the holy names of the Lord, everything is going to be okay. They're like, come on, I want water. Right? So you have to do certain things to satisfy their basic needs also before they can come to that level of understanding where they can tune to the real message that they are giving. Some souls will be very enlightened, like Narad Muni. Obviously, he had done better things in his previous birth, so that when such a big calamity happened that at 5 years he lost his mother, he had the good sense to, go in search of the Lord. Like that, not everybody will have it. For some, if we kill their mother, they'll become very anti-Krishna, like that, saying that what kind of a God is this? So for everybody, it's a different formula. Everybody is at a different level of consciousness to be able to appreciate what is happening, to be able to appreciate that, when the mother says no to chocolate, is the child in a position to appreciate that it's going to spoil the teeth and have cavities, I'll have pain. So what mom is saying is the right thing. No, for them, it's like, the nicely wrapped chocolate is the best thing in the world. And so sometimes you give them a small chocolate, maybe like that, So to understand the ultimate good, see, Prabhupada did not just go to the hippies immediately and start telling them about deep philosophy, right? He first fed them prasadam, tasty prasadam, gulab jamun, samosas, and all the kachoris and all that he gave them first, right? The basic needs are satisfied. Now they can sit and listen to the real thing, right? And not everybody could digest the real thing, and that's okay. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we are 5 minutes over the top of the hour, and we'll call it a day here. Tomorrow we'll meet in the morning. And Niral Prabhu is here. When Niral Prabhu shows up, this means there's something good coming up. Yes, Miss Keshvi. What's going on?
I think she's running around and trying to feed her some stuff. Feed her prasadam.
She's eating things.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Sadhana Mataji.
Yeah, Mataji, I'm just trying to feed her, and she's just moving around, and everything is getting all around the house. Thank you so much, Mataji. Wonderful lecture.
Wonderful class, Shraddha Mataji. So
thank you so much. It was very interesting discussion about the demigods and Krishna. Thank you so much. In that language, amazing.
Jab, 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 jab. She's saying jab, 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 jab. You all should do jab.
Jab, 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 jab.
Jab, jab.
Jab, 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 jab. Keshvi?
Now she's just trying to stand up along the stuff and maybe like leaning on tall things now. Okay, Keshu. Hare Krishna to everyone.
Krishna.
All right.
Shraddha Mataji.
Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for sharing and your thoughts, sharing all those. Asta, good to have you here. And
Mataji for a
Hare
wonderful
Krishna, Hari Bol, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Bol, Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Satikanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. God Premanande Hari Bol. Thank you.
Hari Bol.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Those of you here as well as on the Facebook, we'll call